From the News 10 Broadcast Center, this is Elko Newsmakers.
Welcome and thanks for joining us for today's edition of Elko Newsmakers, our weekly public affairs program. I'm your host, Lori Gilbert, for Channel 10 KENV. Today's featured guest is Wayne Etter. He is director for the University of Nevada, Reno's Fire Science Academy, located here in Elko County. We're going to talk about in this half hour some exciting things on the horizon and ways the community can continue their support for the Academy. Wayne, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Lori. It's a pleasure.
Always nice to sit down and talk with our fire professionals and find out about the exciting things in store for the Fire Science Academy. You're pretty new in the position, but you have really made yourself comfortable here in Elko. Everybody knows you, Wayne. That's great.
Oh, I love Elko. Elko is just a great lifestyle, and the community has just been so wonderful and welcomed my family and I, so we're very happy to be here.
Well, we're happy that you're at the helm of it's the old Box K Ranch just outside the community of Carlin. A lot of pride and ownership in that facility, if you haven't noticed.
Oh, yes, definitely. And as a matter of fact, we've been working with NDOW and some other agencies to make sure that the transition for the National Guard move-in is going to go nice and smooth. And been learning a lot about some of the habitat in Elko County. And so that's been exciting too. We get a lot of interesting animals and wildlife that come and visit us out there, so it's exciting. Very
nice in that high desert landscape. Now the Fire Science Academy, obviously some excitement, as you mentioned, the co-location with the National Guard and some movement on the national level too, with maybe Homeland Security and some other types of training that could be afforded in the future.
That's what we've been working diligently for. Our Reno staff, my boss, Denise Beklowski, has been working with the university staff as well as legislatures to try to get long-term funding for Homeland Security issues in the Fire Science Academy. And we're very excited about that. And that's one of the big things that we're asking for the support of the public for, is that we need the public support to ensure that long-term funding. Because the Fire Science Academy is not only important locally to Elko County. We bring in about $5 million a year for funding for rooms and meals and just the supplies that we buy. But also from a national standpoint, we offer training that other fire academies don't offer. And we would like to get the community support to let the legislatures know and let our senators and our congressmen know that, hey, FSA is an important tool not only for Elko County but for the entire world.
Well, let's talk about that, Wayne, describing maybe the aspects of your campus, again, with some state-of-the-art training not available really anywhere else or very few places.
Sure. The exciting thing about our fire academy is that we get to do live fire training with fossil fuels, petroleum-based fuels. And because of all the challenges with managing the environment, this is one of the few places in the country that we can actually do this training. And a lot of facilities just train their firefighters with propane. And giving a propane fire for an aircraft, for example, which there are no propane-powered aircraft, it's a little different when they come to our facility and they get to fight real fuels on an aircraft prop that's going to simulate an accident a lot more than what the propane props are. So that's probably one of the biggest advantages we have. And as you said, we do have the state-of-the-art training. We have computer simulation programs that we're able to use so that if we have a refinery incident or a pipeline incident, we can replicate that at our facility and allow the incident commanders and the people that are learning how to deal with those incidents, they can deal with them more effectively because they can actually see them on our computer screens and on our TV screens in our facility.
When people drive by at night, you've started your night burns again in the season. It just is this amazing conflagration, and it's all contained and controlled. It's part of the exercise.
That's part of the exercise. Our facility is so environmentally friendly. Everything is self-contained. We reuse everything. So when you see the smoke going up in the air, we actually do use a special mixture of fuels which reduce the amount of smoke, and all the runoff of fuels is actually captured, separated from the water and recycled. And our water, when we recycle it, we actually do make drinking water there. We don't drink it, but we could possibly, because our water is so pure after it goes through the cleansing process.
Well, that's impressive, and you're right, because you do notice that smoke tends to dissipate very quickly. We don't have any dark clouds, none of that visible air pollution or particulates hanging over northeast Nevada.
No, we pride ourselves on our environmental standpoint, and we work closely with all the environmental agencies. And we have monthly testing, and we have reporting and documentation, and anytime that anything seems just to be a little bit off, we make sure that we let the legislature and we let the local environmental people know what's going on.
Oh, it is an impressive facility for those reasons as well, obviously, Wayne, and why we had talked about briefly before we went on the air, Stead had to be relocated because of that urban interface, the encroachment on the more populous
Stead
areas.
Stead was a great facility. We were sorry, I was a fire chief in California, we were sorry to see it leave, but coming to Elko has just given us 100 times the facility that the Stead facility was. So it's a lot better, and I think it's a lot more user-friendly than the Stead facility was.
And more good news to report with Wayne, Director of Fire Science Academy. Enrollments are up at your facility. Yes,
enrollments are up. We're excited about that. We have we've had to add more classes actually this year to handle some of the enrollment increases, and that's good. A lot of our training is mandated by OSHA, so a lot of companies are really forced to, try to meet those OSHA requirements, and so by coming to us, they're able to get that training done, and we are actually mentioned by OSHA as part of the training, so that's another selling point for us and why people come here from all over the world.
Well, and that's really, as you pointed to, that $5 million generated in the local economy. Some might say that's conservative because, again, we do see these students and they're staying here and they're shopping and eating and probably dropping a few dollars in gaming, all the entertainment.
It's a big chunk of money that the students drop here, and I think it's important for the economy that we have that FSA here bringing in the money to Elko.
And as you mentioned, from all over the world. I mean, literally, they're coming from all over the world.
We get Canada and Mexico regularly, but just this last semester we had students from Korea and other countries that just keep coming in, and every Tuesday morning when we start classes, I never know who's going to be on campus when I go out and meet the classes and everything, so it's exciting to see some of the people that we get from around the world.
Really a neat international exchange. I know at some point too there have been some of your firefighters, those who were in training, who were going out to different parts of the country to continue that outreach and doing some training there.
And we still go worldwide. We have FSA Worldwide, which does training around the world. We have partnerships in Saudi Arabia and India. As a matter of fact, 2 weeks ago I was in Mexico. One of our big industrial customers had a large wildland fire threatening one of their facilities, and they contacted the FSA and asked for somebody that had a background in wildland firefighting to come down, and I was the one that got the call and flew down to Mexico and spent 3 days down there helping them organize and prepare for the next wildland fire. So
wow, that's impressive too. The strategy and how to prevent and prepare in case of that emergency is huge, and part of what fire science training is all about. Recently we featured Regent Kevin Melcher on the program, and he's also excited about he said the National Guard co-location idea, at least initially, wasn't the best prospect, but now seeing that there are some real possibilities with this type of collaboration, because even though you'll continue to be UNR Fire Science Academy, University of Nevada, Reno, and providing the training, Wayne, you're going to be on your own in that funding aspect, right? That's pretty serious.
It is, but we've always been self-funded. For the last 4 years, we've been operating in the black, and things have been going smooth. The Board of Regents has been real supportive of us, and as well as the President, and we want to continue with that support. We were very excited when Kevin was elected here this last November, and we continue to enjoy his support. Just as well as the rest of the Board of Regents.
So he explained too that retiring the debt on the property will enable you to pursue some other things.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's our goal, is we don't want to be dependent on anybody. We want to be self-sufficient on our funding.
Okay, so that's what's in store too. And as you said, pursuing that federal funding, that's really critical to the success. So let's talk about the Pro Board accreditation that's also available.
Sure. The Pro Board is a national, actually it's a worldwide certification and accreditation organization. It's been one of the goals of the FSA to be accredited by a third party, and this is becoming a reality for us. It's something that's been being worked on for several years. When I took over in August, it was one of my priorities to get done. By December 31st, we had submitted our application package, have been in contact with Pro Board, and they are actually scheduled for a site visit in a few weeks to come out and do the final analysis of accrediting us to go ahead and deliver some industrial firefighting classes. This is a big thing because it also involved a relationship with the Nevada State Fire Marshal, and we've been working closely with their office. As a matter of fact, I'll be doing a presentation in June on our Pro Board accreditation so that they have a better understanding, and they're starting to embrace that concept as well as embrace the FSA.
Well, it really makes sense. It's no different than when you pay for your son or daughter's tuition. You want them to be going to an accredited university or college.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. There are two major accreditations in the United States. There's Pro Board and there's IFSAC. We chose Pro Board. They have a lot of experience in dealing with industrial firefighting, and that's one of the reasons that we went over to their certification.
Well, that is impressive, Wayne. That certainly heightens that bar, and it does make us, I think, more eligible as well as certainly more accountable. And in the eyes of Congress, that ought to help too.
So, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Getting
that federal funding and certification that you talked about. You are also serving as this area where fire service professionals can meet and talk about some of the federal impacts to firefighting issues.
I'm a member of the Congressional Fire Service Institute. Our meeting was the beginning of April. We meet once a year in Washington, D.C. This was my first trip back there. It was a great trip. And basically it's representatives from the fire service, from the fire schools. We all come together, we meet, we discuss issues, and there's a caucus where there are certain congressmen and senators involved that continually support first responders in the fire service, and they meet with us and we talk about our issues, and then we spend about 2 days where we're able to go over to Capitol Hill. And I enjoyed a meeting with Senators Reid and Ensign. I had breakfast with them the first week of April. Both senators have been very supportive of the FSA. So just went in to say hello and thank you for your continued support. And then I was also able to meet with Congressman Heller for about 15 minutes. And Congressman Heller emphasized that he's been to our facility, he loves our facility, he loves Elko, and he continues to support this area. So we were, ecstatic about that.
Oh, yeah.
Probably the biggest issue with all the chiefs coming together is the continued support of the federal government for the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program, which includes the Fire Prevention and Safety Grant and the SAFER program, which allows for staffing additional firefighters. And that week, the chiefs, we really pushed for those programs. It has a trickle-down effect to the FSA for us to support those programs. I just submitted for a $500,000 grant for the FSA under the Fire Prevention and Safety Act program to have fire inspectors from around the country come to Elko and learn how to inspect pipelines and refineries and tank farms, something that they couldn't get anywhere else. And in that grant, I put a twist on it. Instead of just sitting in a classroom for a week, they would get classroom training, and then we'd take them up on the field and we'd be able to show them accidental fire starts and what happens when a tank burns and a pipeline explodes. And I think it's going to be an exciting program, and Congressman Heller and Senator Reid and Senator Ensign have all embraced that, and hopefully we're going to see funding for that later on this year. And that wouldn't be a long-term program, but it would be a short-term, and it would bring money. About half of that money would come into the FSA, and the other half would go into Elko in rooms and travel and other issues. So it would be a good win for the entire community.
Well, certainly, and maybe also building that foundation for future instruction in this area.
That's what we're trying to do.
Oh, yeah.
And it takes us out of the box a little bit from training firefighters to go and switching over to training fire inspectors. And when I spoke with the FEMA staff when we worked on the grant, they were very excited about it because they're looking for cutting-edge technology and instruction, and nobody has approached this. And with the aging infrastructure in the United States, such as the pipeline explosions, we had the San Bruno pipeline explosion last year in California. Incidents like that make Congress and everybody realize that we need to not worry just about emergency response, but from the prevention and the preparedness as well.
Well, and isn't that true, Wayne? I mean, fire departments, from smaller volunteers to municipal to, these vast county-wide or even state and federal funded fire departments, they're really evolving in their mission. We talked about it briefly, from going to putting out fires. Fire departments are doing a great job in preventing fires. Now they're evolving into EMS, hazardous materials. I can see Homeland Security with threat of terrorism.
There's just so much that we have to do.
Right. It's right. So much you have to do. But the fact that we have our very own academy in our backyard, and that you are looking at those evolving issues and meeting those demands.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Were you talking about, too, the manning levels? Is that what that?
The staffing levels,
yes.
The SAFER grant is a staffing grant.
Okay.
And it varies from year to year, but typically what it provides is 100% of a firefighter's salary for a community for a 2 to 5 year period. And it changes every couple years on how it works. I think the latest one is that they're looking at a 3-year commitment so that way communities that need additional firefighters